So Kyle was at the Combine last week and got some sit-down time with the Thompson Twins. As you noted in a piece you filed from Chicago, they are expected to become, next month, the first siblings in history to be selected in the top 10 of the same NBA draft. What did you learn about the Thompson Twins in the time you spent with them?
Okay, so this is going to walk us right into a trivia time, GP.
Okay.
Trivia time. There's been a couple twin pairings who have been drafted in the NBA. Can you name the pairings? You don't even have to name the year, just name the pairings.
Brooke and Robin Lopez.
Yes. Yeah.
Marcus and Markieff Morris. Are there any other?
There is one more pairing.
One more pairing. Twins. Are they twins?
Our twins.
Twins. So Morris twins, Lopez twins. Morris twins, Lopez twins. I don't remember any other twins. I know I'll know it when you say it, but I don't know it right now.
You have to go way back. Let's see. Oh, bad radio. Okay. So it's Harvey Grant.
Oh, and Horace Grant.
Horace Grant.
Yeah.
So back in the 80s. Yep.
So three sets of twins have been selected in the same draft, but none have ever both gone in the top 10. Safe to say, both of these twins are going to go in the top 10. Everybody has them projected that way.
Horace was actually taken let's see. Harvey was drafted the year after Horace.
Okay.
So they are twins. They were taken a different year, but they were taken both in the lottery. Yes, Amin and Asar Thompson are expected to be the first twin pairing to be drafted in the top 10 in the same year. Both from Overtime Elite. Overtime Elite is a kind of fledgling professional league based out of Atlanta. They got some capital investments from the likes of Kevin Durant, Jeff Bezos, Drake, and the last few years they've spent their time there basically developing as professionals. Like they're going through a professional regimen and playing professional schedule, and so now they're at the point where I think right now they could actually end up being 2 top 5 picks. Very athletic, very toolsy, good playmakers. I talked to him a little bit about the common criticism with Overtime Elite, right, is the level of competition. You watch the games and it's like, man, this is like, it looks like they're playing a little bit advanced version of like a pickup at the Y. And so, I asked them just like, how do you handle like doubters and people who watch the games and say, hey, like this competition isn't good. And they say like, yeah, I get it. Like I understand if you want to push back on maybe the competition that we play with, but like I'm more than just a product of OTE. So you could question like the competition, but you can't question like my competitive spirit, like how I handle myself, my work ethic, which I thought was like chef's kiss, just a perfectly great PR response. And I don't know if he had that kind of queued up and ready to go, but that was good. And I think both of these guys, Amin and Asar, are 2 guys who are definitely eager and willing to try and prove themselves, because I think they hear kind of the whispers that, they're really good athletes. They may be a little bit raw. How's it going to translate going from Overtime Elite, which no one has came from Overtime Elite and been a first round pick. They have some hurdles to overcome, but I think the NBA is very excited about them, obviously, and they're on the mix now. I think to be, lottery picks and maybe a little bit more than that.
It seems like these are the types of prospects who, because I've seen some people, like the Overtime Elite debate is just back and forth. Like it's either garbage or it's the next great thing. Like it's not going to be here in 5 years or it's going to be here in 50. Like everybody's got wild opinions about it. If I were Overtime Elite, I would be trying to push that, hey, we're going to have 2 top 10 picks. Like we're not some joke. Like we are to be taken seriously. And like, that's fine. I'm not even pushing back on that. But these 2 guys feel like they would be in this position literally no matter what they did.
Yes.
Like if they would have stayed in a traditional high school, if they would have played a year of college, if they would have gone to G League Ignite, like these Thompson twins have been on everybody's radar for years. And they're the type, there's sometimes prospects like this, like Derrick Rose could have gone to Memphis or Middle Tennessee State. It would not have mattered. He was always going to be Derrick Rose. Uh, Same thing for Anthony Davis. He could have gone anywhere, and he was going to be Anthony Davis. It feels like the Thompson Twins. Yes, they are overtime elite products, and if I were overtime elite, I'd be putting them on billboards and saying we got 2 top 10 picks. We made history. But they're not in this position, I don't think, and push back if you feel it appropriate. I don't think they're in this position because of overtime elite. I think they're in this position because they are uniquely gifted, naturally talented. Yes, hardworking young men, but mostly just incredibly gifted, naturally talented young people.
No, I definitely think that's right. I think that's right. And they committed to overtime elite just after another twin pairing committed in 2021, which was the Bewley twins. But at the time, it was like, what is overtime elite? Like, what are these guys going to do? Who are they going to play? How's this developmental program going to look? And there's definitely been some questions that have come up the last 2 years about this program. And, they could have gone to G League Ignite. They could have gone to NBL, which is where, RJ Hampton, LaMelo Ball played. They could have gone to like the traditional route and played at, Duke or Kentucky or wherever the heck they wanted. Their 5-star recruits. I think they could have literally just picked wherever they wanted to play college basketball. This was like right before NIL was legalized. And so, yeah, I think they had basically could pick wherever they wanted. They were probably better for overtime elite than overtime elite was better for them. Still, they're at the point where, they have overcome, whatever circumstances they've had to overcome. They've got through this program. They're going to be top 10 picks. And they're going to make history. And I think overtime elite will, as you said, they're going to prop them up. They're going to say, hey, you can go take a different route and go through overtime elite and be a lottery pick. And I think this is going to help recruiting. Hopefully it will help this program continue to grow. There's a lot of professional paths that players can take outside of college now, NBL, G League Ignite, overtime elite. And this is another, I think, emerging, like, very viable path that players can take.
Last thing, most people think Amen is the superior prospect. Is it clear cut to you?
Yeah, I don't think it's clear cut to me. I asked them who's the better prospect. Like, how do you rank you guys in this class? I asked them also with Victor Wembanyama, and they both said Asar has Amen number 1 ahead of Wembanyama, and ahead of him, Amen has Amen at number 1. So they both agreed, like, Amen's the better prospect.
Nobody knows the Thompson Twins better than the Thompson Twins. So if they both say Amen is the better prospect, I'll lean that way too.
I think Asar said it somewhat begrudgingly, and I think he was trying to like reel that back. Like, okay, maybe I should have said it was me. They both think very highly of themselves, sure. And rightfully so. Like, you ask Scoot Henderson, who's the best prospect in this class? Scoot Henderson doesn't miss a beat. He thinks he's the best player in this class. Victor Wembanyama, you ask him, and he's like, well, I'm the best player in this class. No offense to Scoot, but if I wasn't born, Scoot would be the best player in this class. But I was born, and so they all have this confidence that exudes about them. And I think Amen is technically probably in the eyes of the NBA, maybe the more advanced prospect, just maybe a little bit better playmaker, a little bit more polish. But Asar, if in the NBA draft next month, if Amen goes number 4 and Asar goes number 5 or 6, that won't be surprising. I think it's shockingly close. And in fact, Asar actually had more assists per game last season than Amen did, despite Amen being viewed as the better playmaker and passer. So I think their skill sets are very similar. They're both really good athletes, and they've put up huge numbers, obviously, at overtime elite. And I think we'll be top 10 picks in this class.
I know I said last thing. One more thing. You and Norlander talked about it last week while I was traveling to New York. Everybody, myself included, thinks that number 2 pick is coming down to Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson.
Yeah.
Should Amen be a part of that conversation more than he appears to be, at least publicly?
Yes, I think so. I think everyone has already chalked it up as it's Brandon Miller and it's Scoot Henderson. I think Amen is in the mix. I talked to Amen about this, and he said he thinks he's in the mix. He already met with Charlotte's front office when he was in Chicago and had a meeting with Mitch Kupchak. So I think Charlotte, that is more than just I'm doing my due diligence. To me, I think it's okay. We like several guys at this number 2 spot, and they have to know, like, Amin is not going to be available at number 13 or wherever if they decide to trade up into the late lottery or something. Like, they have their number 2 pick, and if they're going to seriously consider all the options here, I think they're going to be serious about like who they want to do some diligence on. And so Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, I think are probably the favorites to go number 2. And in fact, Kupchak has kind of said, like, we're at a point now where we feel like we can prioritize fit over talent, which is a hilarious thing to say after winning 27 games in a season. But so yeah, I think it'll actually end up being Amin, Scoot, or Brandon Miller. I think in some order it will be Scoot or Brandon Miller who end up going 2-3, but I think all three of those guys will be in the mix there.
Nada, as a Charlotte fan, open your mic up. Who do you want the Hornets taking at number 2?
I would put it this way. I have it now in the order of Scoot, Amin, Brandon Miller.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
I think I would go Brandon Miller, Scoot, and then Amin. I'm not opposed to the Scoot LaMelo Ball backcourt if that's like what you're going to try to do. I do wonder about putting a non-shooter with LaMelo. Like, is that that? And I think Scoot's going to be awesome. I think he's going to be incredible, even if the shot never comes around. Because at that position, when you can do the things he can do as a lead guard, you can actually be great without shooting the ball. You'd rather be a reliable shooter, but there's a long list of guys who play that position who are great without ever being what any of us would call great shooters. Mm-hmm. So I think he's going to be great. I wonder how perfect the fit is with LaMelo, whereas Brandon Miller has this one skill that is so obviously going to translate as this wing with size who's going to be able to knock down shots consistently. Like, I think Brandon Miller has, of those 2 prospects, Brandon Miller's got the surest translatable NBA level skill. And that's an ability to shoot from the perimeter with size. So I would probably lean that direction, but I don't feel strongly about it. Like, sometimes I have these big, like, there's no way I would do anything other than this at number 2. And at number 2, I could reasonably understand why you would take any of those 3 guys. If you're that Charlotte franchise, but to our initial point, I would be looking at all 3 of them, not just Scoot and Brandon. I'd be looking at Scoot, Brandon, and Amin too.
Yeah. I think I still lean Scoot over Amin and Brandon Miller at this point. Like, for example, we've seen the Oklahoma City Thunder pair Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with someone who's like not really a shooter, but can be a playmaker and create, which is Josh Giddey. I think that would be kind of like the perfect pairing and ideal fit, where LaMelo's the guy who maybe dominates the ball more often than not. He's the better 3-point shooter, but Scoot is a guy who can create as well. He does a lot of different things that would complement LaMelo Ball. And so, yeah, I think probably if it's relatively close in terms of how Charlotte views, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, and Amin Thompson, to me, you just take the best talent because your franchise is in a pretty tough point right now. But yeah, like if they take Brandon Miller and they think, he's a better fit or whatever, and they see both of them kind of in the same plane, makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, I think you could go 1 of 3 directions there, and it's ultimately, like, we can say we don't think there's much difference in terms of caliber of prospect between these guys, but there will be a difference in terms of caliber of player. It'll play out over time. Like, it'll become pretty clear over time who should have been the number 2 pick. It's just not crystal clear to me right now. So I'll let Charlotte's front office figure it out. That's not my job.